Back once again, you are now tuned into the underground. My name is Mbaya and I go by the Doctor. And we're gonna get right into it. If you clicked on this video, you know what time it is. You know what's going on here. I got this monster of a blade called the ES5 from Ever Since. This is a collaboration with Gamma Plus. If you watched my last video, it was a review breaking down what this thing is, what it's made out of, and not only what it's made out of, but how I set it up. I used the blade setter from Gamma Plus that was packaged with the Cyborg to set this thing up. I used the 0.3 millimeter side of this universal blade setter. I didn't do a true zero gap on this thing because this blade is sharp, y'all. Super sharp. I don't even have any holding spray on my man. He just came through straight out of like a shampoo or whatever, and yo, look at this thing scraping up my man's, just, you know, nothing but ash all day. You know what I'm saying? No holding spray, like I said, and this thing is definitely doing the job. It's not even a true, like, you know, aggressive zero gap, and this thing was ready. So me being smart enough to not set it up to that, because I knew what was going to go in this thing, is, yeah, just a friendly advice, or, you know, be warned, if you do get this blade, it's very sharp, and very sharp as in a good sharp, because it's cutting everything in sight. I got a few different textures that I'm going to go through. I'm mainly going to focus up on just coarse hair and medium hair, fine hair, you know, 4C, whatever, stuff like that. I have probably like one person on here that's going to have like straight hair. He's a Caucasian guy. But all I'm saying is, if this thing can cut coarse hair on like black people, African people, whatever you want to call it, colored people, it is a hitter. It's definitely doing its job. He has a different texture compared to up top, on top of his head. So around the goatee, I had to kind of do a lot of combing, a lot of brushing at the same time. So I kept the knuckle brush in hand as well as a comb as I went through his goatee, because I was a little bit nervous about placing these blades on his face. By the way, when I say nervous, what I mean is I didn't want his skin to welt in any way, swell up, or raise. You know what I'm saying? That's a mistake no one can afford. That is not what you want a trimmer blade to be doing. So, you know, make sure that you are very particular with what blades you put or place on areas around the mouth, areas below the jawline, on that cheek area, on the side of the cheekbone, going up to the temples, you know, the back of the necks, for example. You got to be careful. So the setting that I have this thing at is perfect to pretty much go through any area or any part of the head or skin, scalp, you name it. This thing was balling out everything, and as you can see, it's got him really smooth. Now, he already kind of had a little bit of, you know, bumping up going on. I believe this is from whenever he cleans it up himself. Sometimes I always recommend to people, if you are going to try and clean yourself up in between your haircuts, go about it properly. You know, if you need a trimmer at home, you need to have a trimmer. A lot of people like to use the razor. Now, I don't know what he does in particular in between his haircuts, but for the most part, he's in regularly, so we keep up well with his area. He is a barber as well. This is my guy. I've known him for a very long time, but you know, this will happen with some of us when we have this coarse hair. We just have this inevitable deal that happens with, if not ingrowns, just bumping up if we don't keep up with our skin or hairs. So, you know, making sure you keep the hair pretty low and cut always helps, in my opinion. You got to catch it before it starts to actually grow out. When it starts to grow out and has a curve or something, as in an ingrown, as people call them, or as they are called, yeah, you're screwed. You know, it's all bad. I mean, you would have something the size of a grape on your face without even, you know, knowing what happened. You know, it just happens out of nowhere. But yeah, the ES5 set up his skin on the face real well and ready for the foil shavers. As you can see, I used the Rebel, then I used the 2.0 Uno. This thing is definitely a beast because I almost didn't even need to use the foil. I probably just had to jump over to the razor, but I like to be very detailed. Everything has to go. I don't like leaving hair behind. And I know you can see this goatee compared to how I usually get him isn't very ideal. I didn't really like how it did. Now, I gotta admit, I was nervous about this blade. I didn't know what it was gonna do and how his skin would react to it. So I kind of kept his bars, for example, a lot more full than I usually would. Usually we make them a little bit more slim, and he actually appreciates them more full like this, so he didn't really mind at the end of the day. But with that being said, yeah, you can definitely see for yourself in the pop-up, but I mean, usually is more tight than this, but you know, it is what it is. This thing still did its job. And trying out new trimmers, new clippers, for example, in my case, over the last several months, I've been using a lot of new things, and getting used to these blades and knowing what they do is definitely a challenge when it comes to presentation. So to some people, not realizing that this is your first time using some of these trimmers and blades, they automatically come on the page and say the tool is garbage or you're pushing them back. Well, each blade, at the end of the day, this is something that me and my clients talk about. I always tell them, yeah, this blade may have your hair not react very well to it. You know, these are things you have to let your clients know, especially when it comes to content creating. So this content that I make and put out, or this content that I record and put out, so that you can see the results of these tools before you even make a purchase, for example, is trial and error. I have to get used to these blades before they're hitting the way that I want them to. I'm doing and producing the work the way I want. Then there's some tools that just come straight out of the box that are ready and won't have you go through any issues. So like this blade is one of those blades, but I still was nervous, and it kind of had me cutting a little bit awkward compared to how I usually would, but it's no big deal. This is just an adjustment, it's part of it. And I guarantee you that there's not one barber in the world that does the haircut 100% each time the same way on each client. That's not going down. If that's the case, cool, congratulations, that's awesome. You are an amazing barber. But guess what? I'm only human. There's only so much that I can do. I don't got it like that. I do decent. I'm a decent barber. You know, I'm good at what I'm good at for me and my clients that choose to sit in my chair. And y'all stay tuned for that subscriptions part 2, as in haircuts are subscriptions. Stay tuned. I'm gonna talk more about that. I saw the last one did do some decent numbers, so I'm gonna make sure that I follow up with the part 2 and see what that does for y'all. You know, I hope it helps, you know, because y'all seem to be watching the last subscriptions video. So, you know, if you haven't watched it, go back to my videos, check that out for yourself. It's very informative. And just to give a little bit more context on that video in particular, it's going to talk about the ill side of things when it comes to this industry. Even in this video, for example, the process that I'm showing you and demonstrating with some of these hair lineups, because this is just mostly lineups, and that's what I assume most of you are all going to use this for, is lineups, balding out possibly. But the process of how to execute and achieve these looks is ugly, and most people don't want to admit that. There is barbers, your barber right now, your favorite barber, if you're not a barber, probably isn't showing their full process of what they do on their page. So if you're a client, a customer, custo, whatever, you know, a chair hopper, if you're shopping for a barber, whatever you name it, not to sound condescending, but you're looking at pages of showcased work based on a highlight. You see what I'm saying? So the work, let me reword that. The work that these barbers are showcasing is highlights. They're not showing you the full process a majority of the time. Then the times when they do show you the process, what do most people do? There's trolls, as in these keyboard thugs that are unqualified that come on the page and start talking really crazy about your work. Then it makes you clam up, feel a certain way. You get all in your feels and your chests, you know what I'm saying? And you just never want to post your process. You just kind of look at it like, I'm just going to give you the highlight, because most clients don't know that they actually get pushed back a majority of the time, is what I'm talking about. You know, the pushback is real. Almost every lineup is literally a pushback. Now, I'm not advocating, I've said this multiple times before in the past videos, I'm not advocating for pushbacks. Pushing back is part of the process of a haircut, because you have to literally reconfigure somebody's whole frontal, you know, around the ears, all that stuff, you know, in the nape area, because people have these abnormalities, these abnormal head shapes, these dips and dents, you know, these crazy craniums, you know, these Martian heads that you have to work with. And everybody pretends as if each canvas is perfect as is. That's ridiculous. It's bogus. But anyway, I'm drifting as usual. I'm saving this for the subscriptions video, for the haircuts or subscriptions video. Stay tuned for that, y'all. But as you can see, this thing's a beast. I didn't mean to lose y'all. My fault, y'all. But you know, I gotta let y'all know, you know, it's madness out here. The politics behind these haircuts are crazy, because the canvases that we work on is what we got. It's all we got to showcase what we do. And we have to do what we can to literally showcase our work. So as you can see, I always make sure to fold the ear down. Always do this. You know, don't just be floating off of that ear. You can do that if you have the skill, but don't float off the ear. Make sure you tuck the ear down, pull it down, fold it. Use the functions of the ear properly. I don't know if y'all caught my last video on my man's right here. I did a full video of him showcasing how to hold the ear down and how to use the ear to your advantage, and making sure that around the ear line, going down the neck all the way to the nape area, is perfectly executed. This is very simple steps, y'all. And as you can see, there's no welting going on with this. I do know some of you will zero gap this thing aggressively and start slicing people up. Be careful with that, because I don't think this thing is meant for certain areas. But use it at your own, you know, discretion. So if we're on the same page when it comes to zero gapping, if you lack the experience of such a tool, a blade that is zero gapped, you're going to have a hard time. So if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, is there's times where the zero gap blade will literally glide off of the person's skin and won't really cut the hair if you're not setting it on the skin properly, because the guide blade is what sits on the skin in order for the cutter to cut hair, because you're not cutting skin necessarily, you're just cutting hair. Now that sounds like everybody should know this, right? But this should really be meaning that people should never have any client, customer whatsoever leaving with welted skin. But this definitely happens, we all see it. And then there's some people that literally will always never react appropriately to those blades on a trimmer. It's just the same even with a clipper. If you zero gapping a clipper, you should never have people welt from it, right? You should just properly set the blades, not zero gap it, but a lot of people do zero gap their clipper. That is a huge blade to be throwing on people's skin to try to cut some hair. It's crazy. And most people don't have that touch sensitivity, which is the same for the straight razor. If you don't have that touch sensitivity to allow that blade to just cut literally hair alone, you're going to have a bad day, or you're going to give a person a bad day, literally. So know what to do. If you're going to go in dry with the razor, apply just the right amount of pressure. The same with if you're going to add gel or foam, just saying. Anyway, moving on to a different texture. As you can see, I have a different texture, which has more low density, but still not a challenge at all for this ES5 blade. It handled this with no problem, and I'm trying to show you a lot of these lineup processes in real time, but some of these I'll speed up. Like this one, I definitely sped up just a little bit, because I think with the last video, you kind of get the gist. You understand exactly what this blade does, how it operates, how it functions. This thing it's the one, definitely. With the fact that this thing is equipped with the one cutter, a lot of people will appreciate the fact that this thing doesn't give too much of a fight with the hair to get the job done. It literally does exactly what it's supposed to. And that fixed blade, yo, once you get your hands on it, just the look of it, the design will motivate you to want to cut better. Believe me, it's like a confidence boost for any barber, any stylist, whatever person's using it. It makes you want to use this thing properly, be careful, you know what I'm saying, all that good stuff. So as you can see, that lineup is already done. This thing is doing a thing that I literally like a lot. Definitely gets a tremendous bonus from me when it comes to busy days. As you can see, not too many passes were made. That was really quick, easy. It was prepped perfectly for the straight razor. And yeah, you know, this blade, it's the one. It's the one. You know, I'm really excited for this year. I want to know what else is coming out, but sometimes some of these things are like surprises unless you have that insight on what's really going on with Stylecraft Gamma drops. So this is a blade that I've really kept an eye on for some time, like I said, and finally being able to get it is awesome. It was everything that I expected it to be, and it's executing everything that I have in front of it, not a problem. So yeah, my man's is pretty much all wrapped up. Also, for those of you who are wondering, I'm not really going to show too much of the facial hair process. It's really something that I have to repeat, I was really not too comfortable with when it comes down to this blade set, because these things are sharp. Now, keep in mind, there is another blade cutter, or cutter blade rather, that did come with this thing. So I wonder if that is a more comfortable cut compared to this one, because even though the fact that this is not zero gapped fully or aggressively, I just didn't feel comfortable putting this thing on people's face, even though it does do a great job. As you can see with the lineups, this thing is definitely official, but you have to, you know, kind of be very aware of what you're about to do to people when you put this on their face, because even though some people don't react to this blade, which it's a comfortable cut, believe me, don't get me wrong, it's just something that in this video I don't want to put it out there that everybody's going to be ready to use this thing on facial hair. Like, I may be able to use it on facial hair, use it on somebody's face, in the neck area, like as you can see right now, me going around the ear, going down to the neck. I don't recommend my beginner people to just be going at it with this blade, especially if you don't set it up properly. Like, you will find yourself in some trouble quite a bit, because you might slice somebody up if you don't have that touch sensitivity. So be warned, y'all, I'm serious. Like, there's the thing that I always go on about with zero gap, and that is pretty much this right now. And when you trim hair, when you use that trimmer on the lines, on the balding of the taper guidelines or fade guidelines, you got to be careful, because you see how many passes that I'm making with this thing. It's not a lot, it's just enough to the point where this thing is just slicing and cleaning up efficiently. So these around the ear lines, these curves that I'm creating are on point. Look at that, slicing away. Mind you, I'm not a huge holding spray guy, so there's no holding spray being used on any of these lineups. If there was holding spray, I would definitely point it out so you know if this is slicing without holding spray and just straight up shampooed hair, and people that have just literally walked into the shop as, you know, as is, you know it's official. So when you put that holding spray, whatever kind of, you know, aid or, you know, alcohol, you know, astringent that you want to use to dry out the skin, it's going to be official. Because I know a lot of y'all like that holding spray and the alcohol stuff being sprayed on the line. I do that as well, but I just, if it's not that deep, then I'm not gonna do it. So yeah, but I wish I would have showed y'all the process of the taper and all that. With this, I was smooth, but you know, just the line would do. And like I said, wasn't really comfortable with this blade on faces. So my man's right here, I didn't even want to dare. But I'm gonna show y'all just a little quick design, little line work that I did for my man's real quick, in real time, obviously. Showing you what this thing can do. And this was fun. This is like one of my little signature style lines that I usually put on anybody that says they want something quick and simple. Literally, a lot of my people are walking around with this thing. It's kind of funny, but hey, if you know, you know. I know some of you probably execute the same little piece right here, but you know, it's a quick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. You know what I'm saying? Literally, and you're done. Like 5 steps. You pretty much place a line in there, widen it up, you know, make sure it's clean. Then you do the same thing with the second line, you know, place a line, you know, widen it up. Next, you literally gotta apply the straight razor and you're good. So it's a very simple design to execute. I will actually do a little quick video one of these days coming up, showing how to do this simple, quick design. I think that's gonna be a good one for y'all and whoever is interested, because if y'all want money, hey, you better get this money. So definitely, yeah, you know, clean, super clean. Gotta dig it. And this is probably my only straight-haired individual that I'm about to have in this video. And I wish I would have had more to offer for this video with straight hair, but I believe, like I said earlier, if it's coarse hair, super curly hair being tackled no problem with this blade set, it's not gonna have an issue at all with straight hair. Now, sometimes you'll be surprised what straight hair won't be cut by, depending on how fine it is, because some blades just tend to miss it, or some blades literally just get stopped from being able to cut the hair. So, you know, you gotta be aware of these things, and these different skill sets or knowledge is acquired as you go, as you learn. You will never stop learning either. So a lot of the people that think they know it all, or you know, believe everything that they see in front of them is a pushback, instead of, let's say, client's preference. You know, client's preference, like for example, my man's right here. I'm actually gonna put out a full video of how I achieved this fade, this blend. We barely took anything off the top. We just pretty much faded them and lined them up. Anyway, you know, like I was saying about just client's preference, pushing back and stuff. Some people don't mind the pushback. They want to be pushed back because everybody wants that clean, symmetrical box in the front. Everyone wants that C cup on the sides, perfect arches around the ears. You know, everyone that wants a lineup is looking forward to these things. So if you're not hip, you're not aware of what it is, hey man, you're gonna have a hard time out here, you know, being a barber that actually has people come back for something, you know, worth it. But then again, what I'm saying could be a completely crazy thing for some to hear, because there's some people, you know, that don't really want you to push back. You know, like my man's right here is actually my brother. He doesn't like his corners to be pushed back. You know, he just wants it to be right there. And as you can see, it is what it is. This is as much as he does have. There's not that much density, but you know, he does have density in his line. It's just his hair is kind of one of those very interesting textures where, depending on how low it is, how long the hair is, the blades will react just a little slightly bit different compared to other textures. So, you know, you just gotta be the judge, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be out here thinking everything should be set up a certain way. And you gotta remember, it's your art, you know? Like, if I wanted to save people's line as a no pushback, whatever, a lot of people will probably be walking out of my chair, and it would be pointless for them showing up, because I live for the line, first of all. And that's what people come through for, is the line. So if I have to kind of adjust or readjust, you know, certain spaces in their forehead, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And there's some people that are just not gonna be comfortable with that. Sometimes doing what you gotta do is not an option, and you have to honor the client's preference. So that's why you have all these warriors that come onto the comment sections and literally talking. There's a whole lot of, I don't know, nothing, for real. I really hope y'all like get paid for these negative comments y'all make. I mean, there's literally like such a creative process that goes behind some of these comments. It's amazing, especially when they say push back and laugh about it. But it's like, wow. I mean, this is not me sounding triggered. I just really hope y'all finding a friend, a best friend for life, a wife or something like that. Look, the brotherhood and sisterhood y'all form up in the comment section is powerful. Y'all could do something better, because if there's nothing going on with that, it just seems like a lonely gig. It's not constructive criticism. You're not teaching anybody nothing. So what's the point? But anyway, y'all, look, leave a comment, share this video, follow me on my different platforms. If you appreciated this information on the ES5 blade and the liner process and my crazy rant, hey, look, subscribe to this channel now. I keep it 100% blunt all the way. Yo, it's all positivity at the end of the day for me, just to let you know. In all fairness, I do appreciate all the engagement that I get, positive or negative. It's all love. I really do appreciate all the support from everyone that watches all the way through, regardless to how you feel about the work that I produce, because at the end of the day, my clients do appreciate it, and clients' preference always wins. But I'll catch you on the next one.